Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug Show Live. It's been a few weeks or a month, maybe more than a month. So thanks for joining me. Today we're going to talk about side hustle ideas for 2024. I'm going to go over, I think, 5 of them, which is not fully comprehensive. Let me know if you could hear me. It's always good to double check from the live audience. It seems like I could hear myself, which is a good sign. If you want to go deeper into side hustles, you could download the Side Hustle Cheat Sheet, which has some pros and cons, a little description, often a link. This is something that I've just added in the last couple of days, often a link to a case study where I have potentially interviewed someone who is experienced in that specific business model. So you can go to the Side Hustle Cheat Sheet. It's free. You just follow the link, the first link in there in the description, and you could check it out. We'll go over a lot of this stuff, like I mentioned, about 5 of them or so, along with some examples, pros and cons, and basically a lot of this stuff you'll be able to do a little research on your own, figure out the next steps. A lot of this is dependent on you taking action. Well, it's all dependent on you taking action. So we're going to talk about that. We'll go over some other stuff. If you are brand new to the channel, it's great to have you on this. It's kind of after summer break. I saw school buses driving around today. School's not started yet. I think they're just driving around trying to make sure they know where to go. And I see David in the chat. How's it going? And I also see Richest Domain from Not So Sunny, Arizona, and you'll check out the cheat sheet. Awesome. Yeah, so welcome, folks. And if you do want to get notifications, you can. I think there's probably a link to make sure that you get an email from me before I do live streams. So I used to do live streams every single week. Sometimes, way back in the beginning, some folks were around twice per week, which was great, really fun. Then I cut it down to once per week. And then this year, mainly in 2024, but spanning back a full year ago, I was doing a little more travel, working a little bit less, and I was doing fewer live streams. It sort of coincided when people were less interested in niche sites in general, or content websites, or keyword research, things that we often talk about. But there's other things to talk about. That's what we're going to focus on today. I didn't note it in the title, but we're kind of going to look at different side hustles that are not Google dependent, or mainly not Google dependent. So I'm going to share my screen. I very lightly prepared. We'll take a look at that. If folks have questions out there, just let me know if there's topics or side hustles that you're interested in, maybe that we're not going to get to, which you don't know what's in the presentation. But basically, if you want to share some side hustles that you're interested in, or things that you've been trying out, just mention it in the chat. I think because I haven't been doing many live streams, there's not going to be a ton of people. So it'll be an intimate little group here, and I appreciate you joining in for today. That said, I'm planning on doing live streams on a regular basis again, just like the old days. Now, the funny thing is I have a fairly busy week next week, so I will likely move it next week to later in the week, perhaps Friday. We'll see how it goes. I may cancel it altogether, but I was like, I'm not going to let my schedule get in the way. I could totally do it on Friday, so it'll probably be Friday, but if you just pay attention to the channel, you'll be able to see it. All right. Like I said, side hustles for 2024. These are largely evergreen, so I would say you should be able to do these for the next several years. And like a lot of stuff, I mean, basically, if you run your business conservatively, you should be okay, even if there are external factors in place. So let's get into it, and don't be shy out there in the chat. In fact, let me make sure I can see the chat on here. All right, cool. So, number 1, consulting. These are some of my favorite characters. It's a great movie, Office Space. And these are the Bobs. These are management consultants. And these are the guys. I mean, I used to do not exactly that. I wasn't as high level as them, but it's pretty much the same. So basically, you could use your professional expertise to provide advice to businesses or individuals. A consultant might just be providing like the visionary, the plan. It might be a gap analysis, which is sort of what I used to do for some of the pure business consulting. So potentially analyze problems. I would interview the stakeholders in the business and kind of look at it from an external view. And then you're able to actually provide some hopefully expert information so that they can optimize. A lot of times, just like the Bobs here, it ends up with layoffs if you're working with a big enough company. But if it's a smaller company, like I think a lot of us would end up doing, that sort of consulting with a smaller shop, maybe it's higher efficiency or maybe it's higher quality work. So you can do this, and you're probably an expert in some area. For me, when I started working online, I realized that I had a great skill set with project management, which was lacking. The thing is, a lot of project managers earn good money, so they were often, well, they're busy too. So they're busy and they make good money, but there weren't a lot of project managers that were doing any sort of internet marketing. So I was able to come in, provide a little bit more framework and present things in a more clear way. Sometimes, I mean, a lot of people get into SEO as an accident or basically fall into it because their company needed them to do some sort of marketing and it became SEO. The point is they don't have the same organizational skills that I did. So I was able to come in and provide that specific help, not necessarily being an expert in SEO, but an expert in training and providing frameworks and repeatability and all that kind of stuff. So the pros are you can lean on your expertise that you already have. Potentially, you have authority in your field. For me specifically, I was able to lean on my PMP, which is a certification that I have, and I actually still keep that up. It's a pain in the ass to get a PMP, so I figured I may as well just keep it current. The other cool part is because you're an expert, you probably have a premium price tag on your time, so you have high earning potential. And don't worry, I'm going to have a very good example coming up for you here. Some cons, you do have to find clients. And if you're taking your expertise, like me, I was coming from a completely different field. I didn't have contacts in the SEO field or marketing. So I had to find those initial clients. For me, I ended up creating my own personal brand. I started blogging and put myself out there. You see examples of this all the time, and it is slow, but once you put in the time, it does pay off. The other part, consulting is often, not always, but often trading time for money. So it's time intensive. You don't necessarily have to charge by the hour. It could be by the project, but then you lose a little bit of visibility. The example we have coming up sort of it illustrates how you can charge on the project, and sometimes projects will have a lot of work, it'll be more involved, and sometimes it's a little bit less. There's strategies you could use to estimate the work more accurately, but there's always little surprises that pop up. Another con is if you're a consultant, you are working with clients. Depending on your personality, you may or may not want to work with clients. My personality did not lend itself to consulting. I didn't want to work with clients so much. And everyone's different. Some people love working with clients. Some people love the project and client management. You can also hire an account manager, right? So you could hire an account manager that serves as the contact point, and it takes a little bit of the pressure off. Not completely, but it's something to keep in mind. So great pros. Another good thing here, and there's a couple of them that fall into this, is, and I'm going to contrast with the sort of content website, niche websites, authority websites. So those typically were taking like in the last year, it was taking like a year or two to get traction. You didn't know if all your effort was going to pay off or not. And the issue is you do a shitload of work and then you don't know if it's going to work. And then if it does, you don't know how long it's going to work. The great part with providing services, which consulting is one, general freelancing is another, you get paid right away. So depending on how you structure the arrangement, I mean, you might get paid ahead of time. And I would advise people to, do research to see what is typical in the industry that you want to work in. But maybe you get paid all of the money up front. So think link building services, right? There's a lot of link building or PR companies out there. Generally, you pay them up front and then they get started in doing work. Sometimes if it's more, let's say I go find a client on my own or someone locally here, I meet them at a entrepreneur coffee meetup thing some morning, maybe cash flow is tight for them and I know that, and they say, I can't pay all up front. Maybe I take 50% up front and then 50% upon delivery or something like that. So basically you can arrange it however you want, but you get paid right away. You don't have to wait for 6 months or 12 months for Google to send traffic to your site. You're finding the clients on your own. And Couch mentions this richest domains. So any places to go, like Fiverr or Upwork and so on. So yeah, totally. That's a great idea. Fiverr, Upwork, places like that are marketplaces. There are people looking to hire consultants in a specific area. I'm not an expert in either one of those. I've hired people from those areas. However, I do know that there's probably very good training available at those marketplaces because they want people in there and they want vendors or service providers there. So they probably have great training. And I mean, most of this stuff it's really around review management, perception management, get good reviews, like do your best to get clients, even setting your rates very low to get clients to try out, over deliver, do an awesome job to build a good review profile in general. And then people are going to be more likely to work with you. Again, I haven't done that specifically. I assume that these companies have very good training, but overall, that's the main idea. Like get your reviews, get high marks, high ratings, and then people are going to want to work with you. A couple pitfalls with a consulting deal. So you have to get clients. You have to find clients. You also have to do the work. And there's a risk. This is a classic issue with freelancing or consulting or anything where you have a pipeline of clients that you're continually trying to have a few people like waiting on a wait list to hire you, and then you're finishing the jobs. And that way you always have work coming in. So it's very important to make sure that your expectations line up with your clients and that they understand when the deliverables come in, how it's going to be communicated, when the gig is done, how it ends. Is there going to be an opportunity to rehire you depending on the kind of work? So there's a lot of little details, but don't worry about that too much. It's one of those situations where like find one client, find one person to pay you money, move forward from there, make sure you deliver, make sure you do a good job, make sure you're on the same page as your client so that there's no surprises. The case study that I'll mention is Olga Czar of SEO Sly. I have several YouTube interviews with her. There's one actually that is not published yet on my new podcast, Ranking Revolution, but I will mention that Olga is doing SEO audits. She's earning about $5,000 per SEO audit. They take her, if I remember the interview right, about 20 hours on average. So if you do the math, you could do a few of these per month and work half time and still make a great salary. She has a course, which we're going to talk about digital products. But if you are a longtime viewer, you will remember that I've interviewed Olga for a couple years now. And I told her, hey, you should think about offering a course. She slowly added a podcast, started doing more YouTube, and she finally added a course. It's actually open for enrollment at 85% off. You could follow my affiliate link in the description, and she teaches exactly what she does for these technical SEO audits. The reason why she came up with the course is because she didn't even have the bandwidth to do all of the audits. So there's a lot of people that want audits done. It's not like she's missing out. She's doing as much work as she wants to. And by creating a course, it allows her to have a little bit more free time. And there's a big market out there, people that want technical SEO audits, and she just can't do them all because it's such a popular and it's a difficult thing. It's a high skill situation. So anyway, Olga, she has done consulting. So she used to work at a marketing and SEO company. She would do SEO audits there. And slowly over the last 4 years, she's been putting out content on YouTube and her blog. And she has a podcast now. And she has been able to grow an email list, which we're going to talk about later. I'm throwing everything in. I'm giving you a lot of teasers here. But basically, she built up a following and was able to sell out all the SEO audits that she wants to do. Some of them are more expensive than $5,000 because they're bigger. So basically, she could do a handful of these per month and earn a great amount of money. So perfect example of, finding your own clients, using her personal expertise from her day job where she learned how to do this stuff. She didn't have a background in it. She learned how to do it on the job. She was earning money. And then slowly over time, she's gone out on her own. So let's move on from consulting. A quick reminder for the folks that have just hopped on. We're going to go over about 5 of them today as time allows, but you can get the Side Hustle cheat sheet with a little bit more information in the description. Next, digital products. So we're talking online courses, basically. It could also be a book. This is me, of course, very modest. Got my picture all over the place here. So basically, and this is what Olga has done. So it looks like a Couch is telling me the coupon is invalid. So I won't be able to troubleshoot this now. Okay, so I've apparently used the wrong link here. So that's the wrong one. Let me grab it really quick here if I could find it potentially. And I'll zip back over here and take my face off. Let me check one thing, folks. Sorry about this. Just the normal checkout. Early bird pricing, blah, blah, blah. It's always fun to troubleshoot on the live call. All right, I'm going to find this really quick. All right, I think I got it here. Now we'll change that in the description, so it's only 80% off. That was the early bird with 85%. So if you refresh, you should get the fresh link there. And we're back on track. All right. So we have digital products. And these are courses, maybe an ebook, maybe a written course, but essentially this is a huge advantage because it sort of frees up your time from working on client work. The thing is, some people have an issue with courses sometimes. In fact, my podcast partner on the Mile High Fi, he often says, "Oh, it's so terrible to have a course," and I always challenge him on it because it's not invalid to have a course. It's not like there's no value there. Courses aren't right for everybody, but I understand that. Actually, I'm not sure why he always has an issue with it, but we do debate it, and he's like, I see value in that, and there can be value, but I mean, the thing is, sometimes people want to have a course to organize information. Now, the thing is, you can get a lot of information on YouTube, and it's often unorganized. So if you're able to even put out a huge amount of free content and teach a lot, there's still value in having the course. The other part with a course and digital products is there's often other value involved. So it could be a community, there could be a networking opportunity. So if you join a course, you might have a Facebook group, and then you're able to see other people that are working on stuff, and then you can get ideas from each other. You could form mastermind groups. It's a great way to just like filter people that are serious about something and people that are not. So, and let's see. With digital products, the other interesting part is you're usually able to level up your expertise. So if you're interested in something and you've done a bunch of research and you understand how to do something, you have to understand it an additional level higher when you're teaching someone else. You have to break it down to the basics from the beginning. Again, leaning on my previous expertise from my corporate job, I knew how to create job aids and training and onboarding for people that didn't have any background in whatever thing we were doing in our project. So I knew how to break things down. I knew how to teach people about stuff. So this worked perfect for me. And the thing is, it's great from a mostly passive income stream after you have created the course. You can create the course once, and then you could sell it basically an infinite number of times. It's scalable in a way that other business models aren't. So when you compare online courses to consulting, you see it frees you up from the time commitment. So if people wanted to, let's say they wanted to hire me for coaching like each week or something like that, I could only do so much of that each week. But if someone wants to watch pre-recorded videos, well, infinite number. Very cool. A few cons. It does take some planning ahead of time. That initial content creation time, you have to write scripts for the videos. Videos are pretty much, it doesn't have to be a video. There can be written content. Some courses do lend themselves to all written content, but most people do want to have some video content. It's a higher value proposition and you could charge more for it. So initial content creation time. So you have to understand what you're teaching. You have to organize it in a way that the right target student can take that course. You have to record everything. You have to edit it. You have to put it in some course platform, which I can't tell you, even when I developed my first courses and ebooks and digital products in 2013 and 14 and 15, the technology is so much better just 10 years later. You could probably create a course, get things mostly set up before we finish this live stream. I mean, you can go to Kajabi or Teachable or fill in the blank, and they have all the software right there for you. You have a landing page, you have the checkout all organized. My first ebook was, I had to create a different profile here and there. I had to upload things. I had to set up the checkout. And I mean, the technology was pretty decent in 2013, but now it's extremely user-friendly and easy to set up. Another big con is the marketing. So again, you have to find your students. Same deal as before. You can, create your own personal brand, sell it that way. You could work with affiliates, but essentially you have to find people to buy the stuff. I'll mention a couple pros. Again, I just want to emphasize some of the passive nature of reselling courses. So another thing is the flexibility in what you teach. So whatever you're interested in, there's probably people interested in the same thing. If there are YouTube channels, if there are podcasts about it, then there's probably a big enough audience out there to support a course. Couple pitfalls. Actually, I won't dwell on this too much, but you have to update the course material as things change. So my first couple courses, I had to update a little bit more just because it was my first time doing it. So I maybe put too many things in there that were potential for frequent changes. So an example would be tools. So a software tool, they update them all the time. So a button might move, and there are easier ways or ways to create the content so that even if there's a change, you have accounted for it. Or you can create the content so it's a little bit easier to update. So for example, instead of doing a 20-minute video where I do a full demo of how to use SEMrush, for example, maybe I do a shorter 3-minute segment of something that seems to be fairly static, doesn't update very often. And then maybe there's a part of the tool that I know has potential to change more often. Maybe then I take screenshots and do a written text version of that specific lesson and say, hey, this is a written lesson. It makes it easier to update, basically. So instead of having to redo a whole 20-minute video and then editing that, maybe I just take a new screenshot and then I could say, click the button here. And that's it. Like, there's no huge major thing that I have to do that's much faster than having to redo a full video and then editing it. As you create more courses, you see things that might change, and you could just account for that and create the right content for the right lessons. Next is email marketing, list building, and these have and should have been popular for many years. I've talked about it and encouraged people to own their own platforms, whether it's podcast, a blog, and your email list. Those are usually the most independent. YouTube is pretty independent compared to other content creation platforms, but you're still subject to YouTube in general, and you don't control everything. But an email list, you have the list of emails, and you can take that wherever you want, and perhaps it's one of the most independent pieces of content that you can create and own and just move forward with. So like many of the others, full flexibility. I mean, you can make an email list in whatever topic area you want. Usually you have to find a way to get people to sign up for the email list. Typically, that's going to be creating content of some kind. A lot of these have the same idea, and it's just you're selling something different at the end of the day. This business model with the email list, usually it means you're creating content on a blog or on YouTube. Maybe you're on social media. A lot of times if people are growing an email list on social media, they're either using social media to support something that they're already doing, like a book, like an author. So they already have a platform, they're already doing some blogging, but then they're going to social media to get, another part of the overall potential audience out there. And I think basically create content somewhere. So YouTube, podcast, blog, potentially social media, anywhere people are consuming content. You provide some value in some specific niche that you're interested in. Usually you have a lead magnet and you give them something free in exchange for those emails, which is what we're doing here, right? So I am presenting information on side hustles. I have a side hustle cheat sheet. I'm encouraging you to sign up to get that cheat sheet where we're going to cover more stuff. I don't have time to cover everything today. And honestly, you can go on and on and on about side hustles. There's so many of them and you can go into so much detail. But you provide some value and then you have your email list. You can really do anything you want from there. You could sell your own products, whether they're digital or physical. If you're just starting out, highly recommend that you sell other people's products or promote other people's products. As an affiliate, then you could sort of test the business model. So as an example, for me, I'm not going to create a technical SEO audit course, but Olga has the SEO Audit Mastery course. And if I thought to myself, hey, maybe I want to create a course in that area, maybe I don't create the course yet. Maybe I find a course that is already out there that I know is high quality. Then I can promote that. I can see how it sells. I can see if my audience is actually interested in that. Of course, depending on the content that I'm putting out, you have to pick the right course. You just can't try to sell random stuff. The other thing you could do, if you're not selling a specific product, you could actually have a advertising section. So that's pretty popular. I've signed up for a bunch of SEO and marketing email lists, and it's extremely common to have 2 or 3 sponsors that are actively mentioned in the email. It's usually integrated in a nice way. Sometimes it's a blog, sometimes it's a specific service that readers would want. And that's a great example, like an SEO email list. A lot of people are agencies, they work in the industry, they're looking for vendors to work with. So if you're able to have an email list, which actually, now that I'm thinking about it, a lot of the SEO email lists, they're just aggregating news stories. There's almost never an original idea in there, and there's value in it. If you're running one of these, you guys are doing a good job. People are signing up for your list. It's working. But when I look at it, I'm like, there's no original ideas here. You're just curating stories. The people that have been doing it for a little while, that's cool. You've been curating it. I've seen some copycats of those where it's like someone's trying to run an email list. If you're watching or listening to this, I'm not talking about you. Someone's trying to copy what you are trying to do, and it's very clear that they're just throwing some links in there. They write one sentence, and I'm like, this is dumb. Like, who's even signed up for this list? I am, I guess, but I'm just doing research, right? Anyway, you send emails out. It's really great to have some fucking personality in there because I don't want a list of links. Those are dumb. All right. So pros for an email list, really low startup. A lot of times you can start free. I have been using ConvertKit. I actually have like multiple email lists in multiple different places. Really like ConvertKit. I think they've improved over the years. I didn't like them at first. I think they were an inferior product for a long time, and they've caught up. I ended up sitting next to Nathan Barry at a dinner not too long ago. And he was a nice guy. It was fun sitting next to him and having some drinks. And I think then I was like, maybe I had already signed up again for ConvertKit to test it out to see if they were doing anything new. But anyway, pretty sure ConvertKit has a free tier. And I think you can actually have a fairly big email list there. I think spending time on list building, one of the best skills that you can learn. It transfers in many different areas, and then having an email list of, a few hundred people or a few thousand or whatever, pretty impressive. And you could build your skills while you have a small list. It can be a little bit, I think a lot of these are just going to take a little time to get started, but once you get a little momentum, then you're in great shape. There are potentially some cons as far as the tools, where it can get a little bit complicated and complex if you let it. So I encourage you to keep it simple. You could probably do a lot of segmenting and try to be surgical, but I usually advise people to just keep it a little bit simpler. All that surgical segmentation is not going to give you as much help and optimization as you think, unless, I'm going to throw out a number, unless you have over say 15 or 20,000 people on your list. I don't think it's going to start paying off. And it might actually be 100,000 or something like that. It's just you assume and you predict what a segment of the audience wants, but you might not really know what they want. One of the big pros, you have direct contact with the audience. It is platform independent. It is a very high ROI. Very high ROI. Usually you're able to market directly. There's no one standing in your way. You can send emails directly to your audience, and people typically do open those emails because they signed up for the list. I'm going to pop over, and there's an unrelated question, but I'm going to hit it here. And it's just showing my little picture up here right now. Let's go to the big one. All right, there we go. All right. This person says, can I do SEO? Technically, yes, but I would say don't waste your time with that.